them.
Okay, you know, see, when we're talking about being specific, you know, I think if moms don't sort of like lay out some sort of a template for what they need to have done, fathers, I think, are a little slow on picking up exactly, you know, what needs to be done because, hey, it's a whole new lifestyle for them, you know,
Right.
It takes adaptability. And nobody just has a kid and they got it figured out. This is a big problem with dads who figure out, yeah, hey, my brother's got kids, you know, and I used to babysit for him. I got this nailed.
And he's a
slap
dummy.
away.
Right. No, it's funny. I seem to, I mean, I clearly remember that, I feel now, remembering that no one ever told me how difficult this was going to be. And I still hear people say to me, wow, I can't believe how difficult this is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think collectively we still don't know how difficult it is, and we've been talking about this. You know, I think every time that you talk about communication, and every other workshop that we've had, its intention to a great extent is to let people know how much they have to go through and how much they have to learn and be aware of.
Right, and so there's two very important words that I would say are going to like carry you through. Patience is really, really important. We both know that, and flexibility. Yeah. If you're too rigid and you haven't, remember, kids they're always going to be throwing a curve at you, and our job is to adapt to where they are. We need to go. I mean, yes, we have to have lines of discipline and order, but those lines better be very malleable. They have to breathe. They have to move in and out. So, you know, if these kids throw something at you never saw before, you don't say, hey, what is this kid doing now? It's got to be, okay, hey, be surprised, you know, enjoy the experience of surprise at watching your kid do something that you didn't expect.
There are people who are trained in structure, right? Men in the military.
Oh boy.
How difficult is it for them?
You know, it's interesting you bring it up because some of the kids that come into class, the new and expectant father class, and they grew up in the military, you know, in terms of order, yeah, I mean, they do have a sense. These guys, you know, they teach them that order and inflexibility.
Right.
You know, sticking to the program is more important than flexibility, which I thoroughly disagree with.
Right.
But I think what's really important is that these guys move around from base to base every 2 years or so. And these poor kids, they just made friends with somebody. Well, I got a new best friend. Not anymore. And then they lose their friends. They change teachers when they go to new schools. And they're always in this constant state of flux. Now, the problem here is that these kids grow up not being able to form what's called secure attachments with anybody because they're always expecting disruption. And this is a terrible thing for them to happen to them. They have, those kids and kids of divorce have the most trouble establishing secure relationships in their adult lives.
And it seems that really probably clashes with the military life from the father's perspective, which is structured. Do as I say, do as I say, do as I say. And suddenly they're moving around so much.
Right, order is more important. Order and discipline, and it's a very rigid discipline as opposed to a labile, malleable kind of discipline, which acknowledges that, well, this kid is different than other kids and his needs are different. And like if he wants to go to bed at 7 and his brother or sister goes to bed at 8:30, they don't both have to go to bed at 7 or 8:30. We have to adapt to them.
What might be some of the some keywords, something that you can share with people in the military that are in such a structured life? I mean, so they recognize when things are breaking down, either between them and their partners and between them and their children. What is it that should tell them, whoa, watch out?
Well, you know, the military attitude, while it's important in wartime and it's important, I think that the military attitude ought to be more family-oriented in peace. Well, we're rarely in peacetime anymore, but if you're in the United States and you're not, you know, preparing to go overseas, you know, I think that, you know, there's the models of family that are in civilian life ought to be incorporated into military life. I mean, I would say that, you know, probably, I don't really know what's going on military bases, but I have a suspicion that the family life on military bases ought to be implemented with like family gatherings, family activities, family weekends, and I'm not sure whether or not that those things are implemented at all. And maybe it's every man for themselves, but I don't really have that
Right.
information.
So, all right. In regards to stress, I know that it's such a bad thing in a relationship.
And it's inevitable.
And it's
inevitable. A family
glad
without
you say
stress has
that.
got to be living on Mars. I mean, it's like, how could
Right.
you not feel the stress when you have to get your kids into a school and they tell you they're filled up, and those are things, you remember that. I mean, maybe
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't have that problem where you live, but we're in New York City. I mean, getting your child into a school that is like, where they're going to learn.
Right.
And doesn't have metal detectors up all over.
Right.
That's the kind of school you strive for, and those are the things that you're going to. I stood on a line from 6 o'clock at night till registration at 7 o'clock in the next morning. Me and several other guys changed places on this line because a rumor spread that that they were overbooked, and it was first come, first served.
Right.
So it turned out to not be true, but I made some good friends on that. We reduced our stress factor by complaining to each other for 12 hours.
That must have been hell. So I also I was thinking that I lost my train of thought. So we're missing a question, and it's why I've sort of been ad-libbing there. I didn't print it, but that's okay. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second.
Oh, we have another minute. We
have at least another minute. Yeah, hold on. What do you want to talk about with stress and its management?
Well, I was using the words patience and flexibility, and I think that those I would have to apply those words to stress management.
Oh, I have one. Okay, here we go. We'll do the last minute, and then we'll say. So. I lost it. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I know. This is weird.
Contagious.
I know. So I think that what has helped me with stress management has been to organize even communication, to take communication and organize that. In other words, to set a time for it. I remember years ago reading this article where it said if there's something that you have to do with your children, put it in your calendar as a meeting, right? Because you'll never miss a meeting at work.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And this also reminds me, this ties in well with the idea of the second shift. So you do your first shift at work all day, right? You do your 8-10 hours.
Right.
And when you get home, and you were talking about getting home and then wanting to watch television and relax. I think that what I am aware of is I get home and I clock back in for a couple of hours.
Okay.
And then in that space, there's also time allowed for conversation with the wife about what happened, what is going to happen next.
Right, and speaking, when you're clocking back in, when your kids reach the age, I mean, when my daughter could sit up, and I do almost all the cooking in my house. So we got a bar stool and we put it into my kitchen. It's a small kitchen. You've seen my kitchen. Yeah. It's a galley kitchen. But we fit a bar stool in there. I sat her up on it. I bought her like a set of plastic knives and forks. So when I started like chopping up carrots or onions or something, she's watching, she's participating. And I would ask her like, what do you think, what else do you think we could throw into this, And that... this is like giving, to relate this to stress, this is giving my wife a little time to herself. And, hey, if she wants to read the paper and watch the news, that's her call. Or if she wants to do anything else she wants to, make a phone call her mom.
And it doesn't have to be an entire day. I think the idea of just being able to disconnect, so just unplug. For her to just be able to unplug even for 5-10 minutes, that's a lot of help.
Give you some breathing room.
So let's go ahead and review some of what we talked about. Okay, here we have. So stress reduction and anger management are essential to healthy child care. Moms and dads should offer much positive reinforcement, and respect for each other's differences help children learn.
No, that's true. So speaking of like arguing and stress. You know, when kids, you know, maybe I overemphasized parents like putting a hold on it until the kids are out of way. Actually, when kids see parents arguing and resolving it in an amicable way, that they learn that it's okay to argue, it's okay to fight, as long as you manage it. Remember, we're modeling, but if you manage it, you know, your differences of opinions with respect and admiration and for the other's opinions and ideas about things, and you come up with a compromise formation. What could be a better model for a child to learn how to deal with stress and discomfort than to watch their parents talk it out?
I see it in my life. I think it's solid. It's right on.